Hello, and welcome to Trek 10 Plot Threads to Pick Up for Star Trek Legacy.
Indeed. Hello.
We are your hosts, Devin and Dave.
Indeed. Plain simple Tailors and your Locutors of Trek. It's nice to be with you again.
It's true. And we will be counting from 10 to 1.
We've
Plot
got
threads
this. We assure
that
you.
exactly that we think, should be picked up in this potential Star Trek Legacy series by Terry Matalas that we would all love to see, I think.
Indeed.
Um,
Indeed. I'm looking forward to getting this underway.
Me too. So why don't we get it underway?
Let's do it.
So that would be number 10.
Ooh.
All right. Number 10. The
Look at
Herogen.
we have our division of labor there in our name titles. You are Plain Simple Tailor. I am Locutor. We should switch those each time.
Yeah, that works. We'll switch every time.
Or next time we'll just call ourselves both of Trek. Anyway.
Of Trek.
The Herogen.
The Herogen. Because Janeway gave them holographic technology, like holodeck technology. And under the assumption, I would say, and not even full agreement, but at least assumption that they would use it to stop hunting other species and be able to bring their species together and not be so spread out over the galaxy looking for new prey.
Yeah.
That's quite the assumption, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how it would go down. Like, to me, the most easiest scenario, or the most likely scenario with a species like the Herogen, is they come together because they all want this technology, use it to become better hunters, and just go on and, as a united force, hunt down the Delta Quadrant anyway, and then the Beta and Alpha Quadrants. I think that's more likely.
I can see that. I another possibility I can see is that it would be the doom of the Herogen species. This technology that one portion of their species has, one ship maybe has it by the time they're done with Voyager. And what if in the end the Herogen discovered that the greatest hunt is Herogen themselves? And they fall into a kind of civil after this technology that becomes a sort of prize for them.
Also a great story, though. It's a perfect plot to pick up the Herogen.
And could lead happily into yours as well, or either way, right? Yeah. Because they're just, and so it seems to be one of the abiding themes about the Delta Quadrant as well, is that there is huge, there are huge powers, but they also have deep factional divisions within them very often. The Kazon. Hi, Sam. Of
Legacy.
Herogen.
No, probably of Star Trek.
Legacy. Star Trek Legacy.
I think pretty good. Picard dealt with them according to the third season. Dealt with the Herogen? Yeah, it's true. He did deal with them. Yeah, so they're out there. They're poking into the Alpha or Beta quadrants. So
that lends more to your side of this theory then, because we know they're not just a ruined shell of their former selves. They're making their presence known.
Either way. But we want to assign, because this is a Star Trek Legacy series, we want to assign a lead actor or actors to this episode. Who is the Herogen story going to be led by?
For a Legacy character to interact with?
Yeah.
We have just noted that Jean-Luc Picard has dealt with them. So it would be interesting to see somebody try that out who isn't Picard, but I mean, well, they're all going to be compared to him, but has that dynamic already. I really enjoyed the dynamic that Riker and Picard have, particularly in season 3 so far. I'm only on episode, I'm not all the way through because I lost all my Star Trek when my streaming services destroyed it. It's very sad. Anyway,
It's true. It's true. It was a big shift for us Canadians.
the whole experience of joy and profundity ahead of me, I think. By the sounds of the reviews of season 3, anyway. But what I've seen of it so far, there's a great sort of friend dynamic between Riker and Picard, but there's always, I think, that first moment we see them at Farpoint when he is so almost brutal with Riker in their first meeting has really characterized their relationship. I'd love to see somebody like
Riker versus the Hirogen.
Riker versus the Hirogen would be fascinating.
Riker Worf buddy movie.
My goodness! There we go.
Riker and Worf against the Hirogen.
Oh yeah,
that'd be
great.
All right, let's do that. Okay. Oh, yeah. Now let's move on to number 9.
All right.
What is number 9? The Andromeda Galaxy.
Ooh, the Great Mother. Yeah.
And like, perhaps more specifically, or not more specifically, we'll get into that in a second, but the Kelvins we know are from the Andromeda Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the thing about the Kelvins,
powerful species themselves, right?
Enormously powerful species, but what we also know about the Kelvins is that they were fleeing the Andromeda Galaxy. Well, sort of. And in 10,000 years, they knew that radiation levels.
Yes.
I suspect in newer Trek they would get a little more in depth than radiation, but
sure,
radiation levels in the galaxy are going to make the galaxy unlivable for them. So, what if? If you pick that up, it's like certainly that would affect more than just the Kelvins if the radiation level is going up in the entire galaxy. So what if there's like all of these Andromedan refugees trying to get in to the Milky Way galaxy, and do get in? And you might think that's not a big deal because it's just like, well, it's like in the vastness of the Milky Way galaxy, there's still potentially millions of races to still yet discover, but they already have planets, so that's different.
Yes,
like they already have a place to go. So you have all these people from the Andromedan galaxy coming in, doing who knows what, and
we've already seen a way in which these could arrive in what would amount to an iconic Star Trek fashion, but would already be laid down as a possibility in the show. They could be coming through those crazy red worm portal hole things that the synthetic life forms were coming through at the end of season 1 of Picard,
right?
Or if they got woken up by something like that, it would be I mean there's all sorts of things you could do with that, especially with where we've gotten to in terms of graphics for television or even animatronics these days. Would be amazing.
Norman says, why not bring Tony Todd back to play this? Yes, have him play that Hirogen and have him fighting Worf and Riker. Oh, this stuff writes itself. Good idea, Norman. All right. Let's keep it going. Number 8. The Kzinti.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us about the Kzinti, Dave.
So the Kzinti are, and I mentioned this before, the Kzinti are one of the cool, almost, intertextual pieces of the Star Trek world. They show up at first through the animated series, but what they bring with them is a whole set of history, which it's debatable how much of it is entirely canon, how much of it isn't. but would be from stories written by Larry Niven, who wrote The Slaver Weapon, if I'm not entirely mistaken, the great animated series episode. Here he is, the Kzinti Overlord, and the fella on, I think, our front logo. If you throw up the initial poster again for a second.
Oh, yeah, sure.
The fellow here, you can see him just beside Captain Cisco there. That hunched fellow with the slightly depressed looking face is a Kzinti telepath, a Kzinti psionic,
Scary.
who are lower class members of the society, but useful nonetheless. Kzinti practice, there's so much. This is so rich for, right? This is so rich for dealing with, because we could delve into early Earth exploration. There's a series of wars fought between the humans and the Kzinti at some point before the Federation exists. So it'd be in that point up to the Warp 5 development, right? Somewhere between Warp 1 and Warp 5, they have a series of wars with the Kzinti and end up confining the Kzinti and their slaver empire. But it's clear they had high technology, massive weapons. They stand about 8 feet tall. There's room for wonderful prosthetic and sort of makeup work here that would rival anything Trek has done so far. I think it'd be wonderful. And their ships are cool, even though we've only ever seen them in animated form.
And Riker did say he was having trouble with Kzinti.
Yep, they're relatives or evolutionary relatives
in Picard.
A species we see, I think, in the original Star Trek movie, or maybe Star Trek 2 in Starfleet Command, very briefly. But yeah, they'd be a great adversary. Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, they've got a wonderful sci-fi thing in that they're strictly segregated along sex lines, in that the males consider themselves sentient but don't consider the females sentient. So there's a whole alien politics angle you can
I don't agree with that at all.
Right? That's a great place for Starfleet to put some good ethical consideration in.
All right. Let's move on to number 7.
Not of 9.
No, not of 9 this time. No. And that would be the Federation's first days. So when Enterprise got canceled, it just got to the spot that was, well, they also zoomed ahead a little there at the end, but it just got to the spot that's interesting to me, which is when the Federation is first formed with the Tellarites and the Vulcans and the Andorians and the humans. And then those initial days is what I wanted to see. Like, not so much
wouldn't that be awesome?
to those initial days, which was awesome to see as well. But I was looking forward to those last few seasons of Enterprise we didn't get, that showed us those initial days. So pick that up, put Scott Bakula in there.
Oh yeah.
And, you know what? We forgot to assign our actors to those other ones, but we'll do it from here. Well, who's in the Kzinti story?
Let's swing back to them at the end then. Yeah. But here, of course, Scott Bakula would be great. We could bring back any of the Enterprise actors that wanted to rejoin the cast. Of course, not Trip. I mean,
sorry, Trip.
That's true.
You bring back Scott Bakula anyway.
Do occasional flashbacks with Trip or something. It'd be great.
Yeah.
Maybe Scott Bakula's mind has been broken in another trip to Rura Penthe, and Trip just talks to him from the corner of the room. That'd be great.
But it'd be interesting to see how they start to come to join together their militaries and different things like that. And
it would almost lend itself to more of a DS9 style show set in the Enterprise timeline, right? You could deal with early conflict with the Romulans when they make it. I think there's a point. It's the Charon system, isn't it? There's a conflict between the Romulans and Earth where they end up fighting out there. There's early human Klingon wars you could go through. some of that early wonderful diplomacy that they refer to so often, right? You could actually even see, if you went late enough, first contact with Bajorans pre-Cardassia, right? Which would be fascinating.
For sure. Number 6.
Yeah.
The Dominion War Aftermath.
Oh,
So like,
wow. So many places to go with this. This could have been the whole list, honestly.
It could have been, and it was at one point, and I just we changed it.
We just kept thinking of things we wanted to look at afterwards. Yeah.
But there's Archer, that handsome fella from the last one.
There he is. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see something set out in that Cardassian region.
The Cardassian reclamation we need to touch on for sure.
Oh, yeah.
The Klingon Empire under Martok. What happens to the Gamma Quadrant with diminished Dominion? Diminished Dominion.
Yeah. Because their power is certainly going to suffer
so
a massive change in the Gamma Quadrant if people know they're not invincible anymore.
Do the Zenkethi start trying to take Cardassian territories?
Right.
Who knows?
There's endless possibilities, right? I think it's a very fruitful territory. Those few years right before we kind of meet up with the Garrick as. Now we were talking about this the other day. There's a really interesting point, Norman. We were wondering because the novelization, A Stitch in Time, puts Garrick as really not involved in any structural fashion with the reclamation.
No, just very much a rebuilder. He's trying to physically build things back up.
But there was a recent pandemic fan story that some of you may have caught online. If you haven't, it's 4 parts. Go check it out. It's called Alone Together.
That's good too.
And the actors for several of the characters we love show up in it, sort of on Zoom. Even Quark's teeth make an appearance. That's not really a spoiler. But the story is quite wonderful, and in that, Garrick is I don't know if he's actually the leader of Cardassia, but he's some sort of important hand.
Yeah, he's more important in that.
But you had a different possibility you thought of, Davan.
What, for Cardassia?
Well, what Garrick would be on Cardassia.
Well, I thought he would just figure out who the leader's going to be and just sort of shadow them and watch them and maybe offer advice here and there, but keep a close eye on them.
Not quite an obsidian order, but maybe an obsidian suggestion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to number 5.
Oh, and casting in that, I'd love to see.
Right.
I'd love to see Armin Shimmerman again. Love to see what happens with the Jem'Hadar. That'd be wonderful. Anybody who ever played a Jem'Hadar should just come back on there for it if they can. And as you said, Martok again. But the folks I'd love to catch up with in particular would be Cardassians, because we really haven't seen a whole lot of what's happened with them in any recent Trek.
Yeah. All right, number 5.
Oh yeah,
the Voth return home. All right.
So the Voth, as we know,
can you take it for 1 sec? I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Sure thing.
So the Voth, as we know, are Saurian aliens that are encountered by Voyager on their way through the Delta Quadrant. But as it turns out, they left their home world 65 million years before, when a horrendous accident was about to occur. I think, if I'm remembering the plot correctly. The chat, I'm sure, hopefully will correct me if I'm wrong. Please do. But yeah, it turns out they're the dinosaurs. It's not just birds. They also went off into space, and there they are. And so our thought for this, was what happens if the Voth decide to return home, and since they're possessed of mighty ancient spacefaring starships. Although their technological development is slow, it's still prodigious. That'd be a great series to, or even just an episode to pick up on where the Voth could lay claim. Could they settle in the Sol system somewhere and claim it as part of a homeland? Is there anywhere that would be a potential place for them to settle on Earth? How would they settle claims to this, right? 65 million years is sure a long time for any real estate agent to try and keep land claims going. So it might be hard to put up a legal claim for that. So they might end up putting a military claim. Yeah.
Sam says the Voth really pissed him off. Sorry about that. Screaming babies upstairs. I had to step in. All right. So what did you say about the Voth? Don't repeat everything, but you told them on how they might come back.
Yeah. We were thinking about that.
Like, what if they all? He can't be the only guy who came to that conclusion. That one.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. They're interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just makes sense for them to come this way in some direction. Right. Oh yeah, and who would we want to see take on the Voth?
Oh, I had an idea for this.
Okay.
This would be the Picard story for me, because he's like an archaeologist.
Oh.
He might discover some Voth artifacts or something like that.
Oh, that's a fun idea.
Kind of could set off something, and he might want to contact them about it, and then they're like, "Oh, maybe we'll just come take your planet," or something like that.
Yeah.
Picard season 4, the Voth.
Yeah, I mean, wherever they land, maybe they're charting their way back through their journey to the Delta Quadrant all those millions of years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I like the Voth. I think they have crazy technology. So they be quite forward.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to number 4. Oh, I should show that picture of the handsome Voth. Where's the Voth?
Oh yeah. Oh. Hopefully we'll not make you too angry with that. Oh yeah, look at that guy. Ooh.
It's home sweet home.
Yes. Remember, there was a great old article or an issue of National Geographic where they did one of those, what if, dinosaurs had grown up into sort of bipedal species like us. They didn't end up, I'm sure that I feel like that must have been an influence on the Voth somehow. Anyway, on to number 4. Cisco returns.
Maybe.
Well, we know who we'd like to cast for this.
I would love one last hurrah with Cisco and Avery Brooks for sure. But the reason it's a plot thread you have to pick up is he says he's going to come back. He says it'll be a year or yesterday or whatever. You know what I mean? But he says he's coming back. It has to happen. So let's do it.
Anyway, this happened. I mean, the current run of comics in which he is running around the galaxy, and he and Worf are at odds, and they're doing some crazy stuff leading up to the Day of Blood is just it's a really fun run of comics. It wouldn't be super easy to adapt, but it wouldn't be a bad place to start a story arc for a TV show with.
It's really good.
Even just some of the episodes in it, I think, are worthy of some exploration.
This would be a Ben and Jake story.
Oh,
yeah. It has to be. Come on, now, it has to be. And Cassidy.
Yeah.
Like, this would be a Cisco family episode of the Legacy. It would be
great if he came back, had no commission just ended up hiking around with Cassidy on her freighter for a while.
You think they'd take his commission away after all this time?
Might just not be active. He's missing in action.
Fair point. Fair point.
Or missing.
They never liked his emissary connections.
No. He did not ask for that leave, I don't think. He may have used up all of his vacation days. Oh, and there's the man.
Oh, I left it upstairs. But also today, the autobiography of Benjamin Sisko came out. I got my copy. It's upstairs.
Oh, right on.
I can't wait to start diving into it. Actually, I just read the initial page and the byline, and I already wanted to cry. So It's going to be a good book. Can't wait for that. So, yeah Benjamin Sisko it's got to be. Oh, yeah. Number 3.
All right.
We have Species 8472 Infiltration.
Oh, yeah. This was a great episode of Voyager.
It really was.
And I mean, I just had huge promise.
They set up this whole infrastructure, recruited all of these agents. It almost ran it like a school, almost like they were teaching people things and injecting them with things. It was this whole operation.
It was a large,
be able to pass
facility.
To be able to pass as humans, but specifically Starfleet Academy and Starfleet Command humans, I guess. Starfleet Command, and as cadets and stuff like that,
and specific humans as well.
Yeah, exactly.
In certain cases, Boothby and others,
and they agreed at the end of that episode with Janeway, old Boothby and Janeway had a little chat, and they agreed to not try to infiltrate Earth, but that was one conversation. You don't think there were 1,000 conversations after that Boothby had to do with other 8472 people? After that,
for that matter, if how is that not just data collection for them? That was an interesting interaction with the Starfleet captain. That's there's a plot for our data point. Moving on. They immediately went for the let's make a bilateral agreement argument. They seem to employ that strategy, 70% of the time or something. So, I can see them just cataloging that conversation and moving right along to whatever their eventual plan was.
Yeah, sure. And who's tracking down Species 8472 at Starfleet Command?
Exactly.
Who's in that episode?
Oh, so I'd love to see. Now I was arguing. I'd love for this to be actually this would be a great Bashir and O'Brien spy story.
Love it.
Because Bashir would be able to tell. Bashir would know something is off. And
O'Brien's there at the academy, which they might be infiltrating as well.
Oh, that'd be a great way to start it. Somehow he gets a message out to Julian wherever Julian's got to. Probably out on the frontier somewhere, wherever he currently thinks it is.
Frontier medicine.
That's right.
Wouldn't it be funny if he's back on that ship that he didn't accept in the first place that just does analyzes samples every now and then?
Oh my gosh.
I forget what it was called, the name of that ship, but yeah. That would be funny. But yeah, that's a great call. Great call. Before we do the top 2, let's go back and cast our Kazinti episode. Who's battling over the Kazinti? The Kazinti. I mean, you can put it wherever. I mean,
you can drop it into a number of timelines too, right? It doesn't need to be presence.
No.
Absolutely. It could be in the Enterprise or in the
you just need to be able to get an actor.
Yeah, in the Strange New Worlds timeline. I'd love to see that Enterprise take him on.
That is interesting. That's interesting. All right. So, and we didn't cast our Andromeda episode either with the Kelvins potentially, or the Tholians potentially. Like it's thought that, but the Tholians might be from the Andromeda galaxy. But like, who's out there on the fringes, like contacting these Andromedan species as they come into the Milky Way galaxy? Like,
a great question. Good to pick up on that with, be
like, what if it's like a Tom and B'Elanna story or something?
Oh, they could be out there testing some crazy engine design.
Yeah, or something.
That B'Elanna's working on, and Tom's going to try and fly. Man, it could be like a Lost in Space story.
Well, they have Harry along with them, of course.
Well, what if Andromeda doesn't go to them, but they end up going to Andromeda somehow, right? Or they get stuck out in some other place, or at some beachhead spot where the Andromedans are starting to congregate or something, eh? Yeah. Be a great way to revisit the world the Kelvins settle on too.
Yeah, it would. I like that idea. Well done. Number 2.
Oh man, you got my little hamsters running in my imagination now. You can see the smoke starting to come out of my ears.
Oh yeah, it's smoking. All right,
that's right. My bizarre collectors will be all red.
The Iconians.
Oh,
of course, the Iconians. I mean,
yeah,
the gateways themselves, maybe, but maybe the Iconians themselves, maybe not just the gateways. But either way, something has to come back into play.
Oh yeah, and we've seen some interesting treatments of them. I know that Star Trek Online's done a lot with the Iconians. Has given them a
with most of these things
those iconic look. They've got those like crazy, like the long faces and a lot of eyes, and it's a really interesting take on them. I'd love to see some of that get explored.
Nice gateway there. But yeah, I would too. I've always wondered about the Iconians. I'd like to see something. And now,
who do we want looking into the Iconians?
That is a good question.
So, if I recall, the 3 of them who were in the room in the first place, it was Data, Worf, and Picard, right?
Yeah.
Because Data's body gets fried.
Yeah.
And Worf has to carry him out.
Yeah. Data puts his
Picard sticks around at the end. So does there need to be any connection to those 3 characters for that to be a legacy?
No.
Pickup.
I don't think so. It could be Tuvok.
Ooh. Oh man, the later adventures of Tuvok
and Janeway or something.
Yeah.
Or
Janeway would be interested in that sort of a question. I mean, especially given that like she's an expert in, getting tossed around by gateways.
Yeah.
Or maybe an old hand. I don't know about expert. That'd be fun. Yeah, I'd love to see what happens with Tuvok in later years. I feel like he could become one of those, the Vulcan monks that you hear about that like wander the fire plains or something. Because the whole wrestling with violence in him and sort of the passion involved in violence is something that became a stronger and stronger theme with his character, and it'd be interesting to pick up with where those meditations would have taken him.
What if it's like here's somebody else in there? Make it like a Tuvok and Ezri's story or something.
Oh man. I really enjoyed Esri. Esri got such short time and very short shrift in a lot of ways, but I really enjoyed Esri.
Too.
Oh, that'd be great.
All right. Number 1.
All right.
Of course. It is
Of
probably of no surprise. The conspiracy aliens. It won't be Remick. Remick is no more, but
yeah. Oh, good old Remick.
Remick.
Yeah, I mean, they're just one of the greatest untouched wells of potential, you know.
And there's a beacon. They send off a beacon at the end of the episode, and it's in the first season. And in 6 seasons, nobody answers that beacon.
And there's
like,
nothing wrong with that taking
the whole time.
You know, that maybe it takes 300, maybe it takes 900 years. And you know, by the time that Discovery is wandering around in this reconstituting Federation, nobody would remember those conspiracy aliens by then.
That'd be funny.
Certainly wouldn't know anything about them.
Popped up in the far, far future like that. That would be pretty funny. That's not a bad idea.
Wouldn't be making
it like it. Yeah. Conspiracy aliens.
Although the other spot that I would that would be really fun for that would be I just love to see like a real almost like noir investigation thing. And hear me out on this. I'd like to see Jake Sisko get hired by Nagus Rom to investigate what's going on with trade patterns, because they've noticed things in the large numbers. And that's the first hint that the aliens are actually doing something. And it ends up this whole series of investigations, and you could bring in as many side characters as you want to as he's wandering around trying to get help from Starfleet people, because, you know, he's Jake Sisko, the writer. And he doesn't really have that kind of pull personally.
It is interesting.
It would also be good to put Bashir into Section 31 with that.
I would make it a Phlox story. He's a biologist, an expert in like icky creatures, and he loves them. Like, yeah, it would be a Phlox story. But I guess that has to be like retroactive, because he's
almost like maybe the first ever encounter. How do they ever get started getting into humans?
Yeah, maybe.
You could just have one like little ensign,
make it a precursor, right? And then we're still waiting for them to return.
Oh, I like that a lot. That still leaves the option of the other one, right?
Exactly.
All right. Gosh, if Paramount doesn't start filling our inboxes for this, I don't know what's going to go on.
I know. All the times we've given them great ideas.
Yeah.
No paychecks. You know.
Nope. Not one yet.
Sam says, fun fact, the conspiracy aliens were supposed to be a 3-part trilogy, but the writers caused it not to. And that 3-part trilogy was meant to introduce the Borg.
Wow.
It is interesting.
That's a heck of a 3-part trilogy.
That's a lot, yeah.
Wow.
So then like it's like the Borg versus, so there you go, there's your story. It's Hugh versus no, Hugh's, yeah. But I don't know. That's fun.
Yeah.
All right, well, that was our Trek 10.
Indeed. That was that.
Yep. You can contact us at locutorsoftrek@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and wherever you get your podcasts. You can find the audio-only version wherever you get your podcasts. And patreon.com/livelongpodcast, where you can get some sweet, sweet merch. And, you know, ufpodcast.com, we can be found as well.
Indeed.
So, yeah. Indeed.
Over here in the science division.
Yep. We are in the science division. There's our there it is.
There we are.
There's the science division. There's our Locutors division. We're sort of both. We have 2 divisions under our belt here because we get a lot to say about Star Trek.
Highly divisive,
I guess. Very divisive. We recently had a cool talk with the Mohammed Noor on our
that was a great
episode of season 2. That was interesting. He had a lot of insight into the biology of the Star Trek universe and biology in general, of course. And we recently talked to Christopher Sequeira and Joe Eisma about the Halloween issues of IDW Star Trek Halloween. That was a good comic
hopefully
book
more
series.
from both of them soon in the Star Trek world.
Agreed. Lots going on there. And also check out our other shows here on Live Long and Podcast, like they're reviewing DS9 on Monday. Check that out.
Indeed.
DS9 Season 7. And we got X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show, Graphic Histories, Hold Up, a movie podcast, Super Mater Brothers podcast, Eamon on Track, the Hellbound podcast, and Trivial Debates. And there's one coming up Friday on Transformers. If you ever want to see people argue about Transformers who are really passionate about Transformers, this is the show for you.
Well, all I can say is there will be more to that debate than meets the eye.
Touche. Oh, there's only one thing left to say, I suppose.
That's true. End transmission.